So we just got done meeting with some people in the academic department, would you say?
Dr. Shaker is in the academic department. He's the chief academic officer. Dr. Tim is chief of schools. And the Rob Spicker is the school district communications director. And then a regional associate regional superintendent.
Okay, lots of people, 4 people. The original intent of the meeting was to discuss grading floors for my son and some concerns that I had around those. It naturally snowballed pretty significantly into just a laying out of the entire situation. And I'll let Allie talk about that because one of the microphones is dead.
The regional associate superintendent was Cheryl Neely, who we met with. The intent of the meeting was the grade floor. And so that was the first topic that we tackled.
Dr. Shaker, and I believe with the support of Dr. Tim, from my perspective, I think that, they presented a book where they, believe in grading floors. It was called On Your Mark by Thomas R. Gusky. I love that you wrote that down because I was not paying attention to that. I was just like, I don't care about your book. But it, I think for me, it was really just about like, if you're going to have a barometer by which you gauge children's grades, that should be a universal barometer. And I think that was sort of what the conclusion that we came to on it, as far as that goes. And honestly, even though that was the purpose of the meeting, that was not like the main meat of the meeting. I would say it started out a bit contentious, and I definitely brought that energy into the room, and I will take full responsibility for how I showed up. I think that the district doesn't necessarily have the perspective or lens that we do sitting inside those DMs, because it is heavy sitting in those DMs. Like, it is a lot. You guys are frustrated, whether you're parents, whether you're former students, former staff, paras, like it's across the board. And so, in my opinion, if I walk into that building with a chip on my shoulder, then like rightfully so, to be honest with you, but obviously we co-create situations. So I'm going to pass it to you, and you can discuss kind of what unfolded for that, because she was an immaculate notes taker.
So what we learned is that the district supports the teacher's rights to the grade book. That Orange and Polk have written grade floors into their progression plans. What Amber directly asked if they denounced the grading floor, and they kind of sidestepped the question by saying, I support the teachers, right. The narrative is, leave it to the teachers. The teachers are closest to it. But Amber kept raising the good point, which is, well, what about the inconsistency and, having different standards from school to school? They acknowledge that there's research that's for and against the floor, and they said they're not at a place where they can determine whether a floor is appropriate or not. But they seem to be pro the floor, if for no other reason than to give struggling students an opportunity to get caught up. They explained the standards and the grading, which I know is controversial, the 4-point scale and all of that. That just seemed like a distraction, maybe.
The reason for the meeting was the grading floors, but I think all of this stuff came out because it needed to come out, especially because they put Rob Spicker in that meeting. They put the associate superintendent? Associate regional superintendent in that meeting. So clearly they wanted to glean more information. And I continued to push on the grading floor issue. I continued to discuss, which students might be impacted by a grading floor. And we had a significant back and forth on it, to be honest with you. And it was a little fiery. It was a little fiery. That's a description for it. It was respectful, but it was fiery. Because I think both sides were passionate about it. But, I'm not very relenting. So, Allie, Allie stepped in a bit, and then we got to like other issues, which I'm very grateful that we addressed. So let's just touch on them real quick and talk about the conclusion of the meeting.
So they talked about the SAC as an opportunity for community members to raise issues to the DAC and referenced 100 people being on that call. Amber made a really great point when they brought this up, and that is the current system, the way it is, and what we're seeing is that no teacher can feel safe to raise concerns and bring concerns. We talked about the lack of RBTs in ESE classrooms, and we're informed that that has to do with Medicaid funds, and there's a backlog of background checks. So for our ESE concerned parents, it seems like they're trying to address the background check backlog. On class sizes, they maintained their monitoring closely talking point. There's a 14-day count. And right now enrollment is down because not everyone shows up at the beginning and some people move out of district. It sounds like shortly after this 14-day from the first day of school, what they do is that's when they will decide to allocate bridge funding to if a principal needs to open up another classroom because the class sizes are too big. And also when they're going to reallocate curriculum materials, and that the assistant principals at the schools right now are talking about the leveling. So for class sizes, we tried to get them to kind of give us an idea of when parents can expect that issue to be addressed. And they didn't really give us a timeline. They used words like, we can move more nimbly after the 14 days. In another state, Dr. Tim mentioned not having staffing until mid-October, which she characterized as slower than how they're moving here. So, end of September, beginning of October, there should be some insight on the class sizes that people, are concerned about. And Amber, do you want to bring up how you talked about how you asked the really, really great question of, do you see declining enrollment as a symptom of a bigger issue?
Yeah, I think part of my frustration in the meeting came from the fact that, like, yes, we were there to discuss grade floors, but we started to, it was like the singular focus, and I just wanted to zoom out, and I think at points I zoomed out a little too far, and people were kind of like, well, what are you talking about? But the implications for the classroom, and I tried to at least bring it back to the classroom in the discussions to say, like, the grading floor doesn't matter if all of the students are getting left behind. So when Allie and Dr. Tim were discussing the enrollment numbers, there was a little bit of like, oh yeah, people are going here, people are going there. And I was just like, I kind of realized I had to rein it in and be like, all right, let me position this a little bit better. Like, I'm in marketing, I should be able to position this better. So I asked if they saw declining enrollment as a symptom of a bigger issue, right? Like, and I got pretty passionate and I don't know, we'll say aggressive, but I feel like I had toned it down by this point about everything being a symptom of them not listening to teachers, of the students not individually being served for their individual needs, and that being a teacher expertise. And yes, I did ask that question about if they saw it as a symptom. I forget exactly what was said.
I think there was maybe not directly anything said. The notes I took were losing people out of state. They looked at the data yesterday. A couple charter schools are up, a couple are down. They know they lose kids at the middle school level. They mentioned the Save Club, and I feel like this was an opening to address maybe the root of the problem. And Amber did a really nice job of having that be the through line of the whole meeting, which is, why don't you guys listen to your teachers? And so she asked the question when I believe Dr. Tim brought up the Save Club because we were talking about bullying. And she said, and Amber asked, why aren't administrators aware? And Dr. Tim then brought up that the district is the 12th man. So the construct is the teachers should be going to their principals and their administration within the school first, and then the district can help support. And but they're keenly involved in making sure developing schools that in making sure that they are developing schools that make people want to be in the public schools. So they are committed to a good culture, to having good academic programs and making progress. So, dun, 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 dun. The result of that commitment was
there was so much that happened in the meeting, and it's like I got so passionate that I stopped being able to take notes, and naturally they declined recording, which I hate, but it is what it is. It came back to you guys. I think what I said was you guys are all clearly intelligent people. You're very well compensated, and I didn't really understand why no one had pushed back on anything. And I think one of the things that I said is I really look forward to you pushing back.
Because she thought about it going into this meeting, like opening dialogue with some cadence.
Okay, we discussed that we had the amount of trust that we had established with you guys as teachers, as like just everyone that DMs us and asks us like literally to keep their information private, and like how important that is to us, and how it's like we're not making things up. And so we discussed like how could teachers theoretically like truly bring the concerns to them without, being outed by toxic administration or toxic, culture that has been curated over the years. And the conclusion, like you said, that I'm finally getting back to, that we came to is we offered to meet with them regularly. First, it was quarterly that was presented, but we realized there are so many issues right now that we scheduled a meeting with them a month from now. There was enough of a point that reached like positive conclusions and like basically agreement, like, hey, we are on the same team, that we said we'd be willing to bring them the concerns, all like obviously anonymously. We would never sell you guys out. So that they can address it and then basically come back to us and say like, here's what's actually being done. That I think was the biggest thing. And then I just really pushed and really challenged. And I was like, my kids challenge me every day, which was an illustrated point from Neely. Sorry. Dr. Neely brought that up, that, sometimes the students and kids push back on them. And I was like, and when my kids push back on me, I usually tell them, I usually end up having to sit down with them and talk to them about it. So that was the conclusion. We have a meeting with them at the end of September. We brought up all of the issues that we brought up in the meeting, and we were like, show us what you can show us in a month. And we will not stop talking about this. I promised them to tone down the aggression on it. But I will not stop talking about it. We will not stop talking about it. We will probably focus on it less heavily because we are reaching quickly burnout. It has been just hundreds of hours invested across the two of us, actually individually, probably for each of us in this. So we're meeting with them in a month. And so that means that all of your concerns, however you want to submit them, and I promise you, this will be anonymous. We will not share the information of the people that are being shared or any additional names.
Or the school names or any identifying information. So we made it a point to talk about, like Amber said, the trust that we have cultivated with this community. And that means so much. And that's what that's what's most important. But I do want you to bring it back to what Chelsea said in your interview, as far as opening the lines of communications and also what Mike said at the school board meeting and listening to the team.
And there is no conversation. It's just a non-starter. We're not doing this. I think that overall the district, especially those people who are higher up, should be taking more of what we have to say to heart, and they should be doing a better job of making us feel heard. So it can be done. The powers that be do have time, and they should be constantly listening to their community and figuring out exactly what it is that they can do to make the education system better in Lee County.
And we do view this agreement, and they even said that they would have all 4 of the regional associate superintendents. Sorry, that's such a mouthful of a job title. But that they would bring them as well to the meeting, and that depending on the agenda topics, and it would be kind of a co-created agenda, that they might bring like the counselors, and they would, depending on the topics, they would bring in the sort of relevant district personnel, but that ability to like be your voice and continue to kind of bring things to the surface that are, causing you overwhelm or stress or anxiety or you name it, I think is a good outcome for a meeting that, started off with kind of a limited scope in terms of the grade floor.
Bro, I came in fucking hot.
Guns a-blazing.
I made comments about the art on the walls and whether the kids had enough paper to make the art. Okay. Like, I was not happy. And I want to say that because I think it's important that like no one see this as like, oh, they sold out or the district got to them or anything like that. Because like when Chelsea and I sat down, to that point that you just said, when Chelsea and I sat down, I told her it sucks that we can't just get everyone in a room so that the teachers, the administrators, everyone can get on the same page and talk through what compromises have to be made so that everyone can be enrolled and it can be like a team effort. And I told them that, and that was kind of like what we left with, of like maybe through this initiative, and you guys will have to weigh in and let us know, we can get everyone back on the same team, which is a massive undertaking, obviously, but we're down for it. We're down to meet with them regularly if we can be your vehicle to getting change in the district.